strange. When you're a stranger, faces look ugly when you're alone.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And it's not looking good for Morbis. The film's been out a day, people have been watching it, and the reviews have come in. And the reviews are not kind. We'll take a look at some of them. But first, we're going to go to Rotten Tomatoes, see there. And, well, what do you think? Here we go. So here's the Rotten Tomatoes page, and as you can see straight away, the audience score is 64%, which, okay, it's not the worst, but it's still not very healthy. It's not a great film if the audience are only giving it 64%. And as for the critics, wow, 16%. Well, there's nothing more to say there, is there? 16%. This is not a film that is going to be universally loved. And the consensus and the ratings, well, let's have a look. Critic reviews first. Morbius wasn't good to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. And that's from Sunny Bunch. Miles Surrey of The Ringer. Morbius's greatest legacy might that it united the internet to dunk on a movie nobody asked for. Merely adequate, and by Marvel standards, slightly anemic. The action sequences are forgettable, a blur of CGI punches and jumping sequences in which Morbius leaves a trail of steamy ribbons in his wake that are supposed to show his flight, but instead look like the remnants of a retired cheerleader's pom-pom. Oh, that burns. This burns too. It's impressive to live in a day and age where comic movies can still be this bad. When you combine bad dialogue, questionable editing, and a dead serious tone, the result is not exactly great. The script and direction is so bland that even Jared Leto couldn't inject any charm, menace, or skerrick of personality into the character. You know, and it's more and more of this. There are some positive reviews. Simon Foster from Screenspace. It's almost a shame that Morbius is tied to the Marvel Universe at all, given that the inclusion brings with it franchise expectations that don't serve the character's key traits at all. Now, if that's as good a thing you can say is it shouldn't have been part of Marvel, and that's your positive. Another positive review says that other than being predictable with repetitive visual effects, I found Morbius intriguing. So, faint praise indeed. Rob Dean from Bullseye. Morbius is a character who's caught between two worlds, man and monster, and his movie is stuck in a similar liminal space that ultimately makes it unremarkable. And that's a positive review. It is appalling, isn't it? I mean, it's just down and down and down. There was 3 there. I'm not going to go with all the critics. Let's have a look at all audience. And these are people. These are just normal people. Good movie. The end was a little too open-ended, feeling like a part 1 instead of a first movie, but genuinely has a good emotional ending, and it's a fun movie regardless. Go watch. So positive, and a lot of them, if you look down, they're all positive. Then, man, this movie was not good. Sony needs to hang it up. Just like any other origin story, this movie is nothing but another classic Marvel movie, giving homage to its Venom original. Has everything you'd expect for it to have: stunning action, stunning CGI. Not as bad as they say it is. So we've got Den of Geek, Morbius review, Marvel vampire movie is lifeless. Quick, someone drive a stake into Morbius before he rises for a sequel. So already you know they don't like it. About midway through, Sony Pictures and Marvel's Morbius, a monstrous union of bottom-of-the-barrel intellectual property and fiscal year planning, Jared Leto's title character is in the belly of the beast. Before this moment, Dr. Michael Morbius, Leto, has traded his rare blood condition for a case of vampirism. A Faustian bargain that's led the NYPD to finger him for murders throughout the 5 boroughs. Whether guilty or not, Michael reaches for Bill Bixby levels of grandeur as he broods in a hushed whisper, warning the coppers, "I'm getting hungry. Believe me, you wouldn't like me when I'm hungry." My good doctor, we don't like you now, and nothing that occurs before the credits roll changes that. This may seem harsh for what on the surface is intentionally light entertainment, an attempt to mingle the bloodlines of modern superhero flicks with the far older lineage of the vampire cinema. There are, indeed, elements that have as much to do with Bram Stoker as Stan Lee. During the opening sequences set in the jungles of Costa Rica, a then disabled Dr. Morbis is told repeatedly by locals that he should not be travelling after sundown. Victorian chillers are echoed again when a container ship washes up ashore in New York Harbour with almost every soul aboard drained of blood. As yet, another Spider-Man villain origin story without the webhead. Morbius begins at a point of intrigue in the Costa Rican rainforest and then jumps back in time. For there, we go through all the familiar beats. First we meet Michael as a young boy, as he dreams of one day doing great things after being born with a disease of the blood that leaves him pale, limping and staring down the barrel of a short lifespan. As a kid, he also meets his instant best friend at a clinic, Milo, who conveniently has money and a devil-may-care attitude that perhaps covers up a dark side. Surely that will be relevant later. When the boys grow up, Morbius is now a bearded Leto, while Milo a callous malcontent played by Matt Smith. Perhaps remaining a wee bit sensitive due to the fair criticism aimed at his ambitious but flaccid Joker performance in 2016 Suicide Squad, Leto plays Morbius relatively straight. He is neither fish nor fowl as a protagonist whom the audience is meant to root for, as he searches first for a cure to his illness and then for his vampirism. But the role of a sympathetic vampire demands something of the operatic, a Jonathan Frid flash of charisma, if not Tom Cruise's full wattage. Instead, Michael Morbius is, much like everything in this film, perfunctory, which leaves the audiences with nothing to cling to, as the monotony drones on, courtesy of a tedious script that collects banalities as if they were seashells. Worse served, however, is Smith, generally a fascinating character actor who makes clever choices in his television projects, be it as the title character in Doctor Who during that series' glory years, or as the Duke of Edinburgh on The Crown. Smith continues to be saddled with thankless villain roles in his Hollywood endeavours. And they don't come much more thankless than Milo, a character defined by one characteristic, desiring a cure, and little else beyond a general smarminess. With echoes of the worst cinematic version of the Green Goblin in the Arad Tolmach-produced The Amazing Spider-Man 2, here is a poor little rich kid caricature who just does things so they can be a paper villain to knock down in Act 3. So Den and Geek really don't like it, and his giant freaking robot. Morbius hits Rotten Tomatoes with shockingly one-sided score. And again, we've seen the Rotten Tomatoes score. I mean, they're saying here it was 17%, it was 16% now, so it's actually getting worse. They're saying many reviews feel the spin-off is not only uninspired, but a cynical, half-hearted snorer, cobbled together purely out of the hopes that the Vampires Association to more lucrative properties like Spider-Man and Venom will yield a hefty payday. Yeah, they're looking for money by association. Oh, this is associated with Spider-Man and Venom, so it must be good. And yet it isn't. The Irish Times review for Morbius includes some of the most merciless review headline of them all, and that is saying something, calling the film a Spider-Man spin-off written with a crayon and edited with a chainsaw. What a great line. And of Leto's performance, IT's Donald Clark writes, "The actor wears less makeup as a vampire than he did as a human in House of Gucci, but he appears to be taking the silly role absurdly seriously." And it really is going to be a flop, and I'm sorry to see it, and sorry to say it. I like Leto. I think he's a great actor. I think he could have performed miracles with this, but hasn't been allowed to. I think the script was weak, the production weak. The CGI, some of the CGI I've seen it's very much 1990s, and it's not got a good feel to it. So I shall come up and round off. I think ultimately, when a film is well made, it can be brilliant, whatever the source material. But if you get the script right, you get the production right, you get the right stars, you can work wonders. You can't make a good film out of a bad script. You can make a bad film out of a good script, but they've made a bad film from a bad script. I don't think it works. I think it's a Spider-Man story without Spider-Man. They've tried to make a bad character a good character. The production isn't great. I really don't think it's going to be remembered. I think it's one of those films that will turn up in 20 years. Oh, I forgot he was in that. It's one of those. It'll be hitting. It'll be in and out of the theaters and hitting the streaming service in weeks, not months. I'm thinking maybe 2 weeks. I think you'll see this on Disney Plus in less than 2 weeks. I think it's just going to crash and burn, and that's sad. It's sad for everyone who makes these things because they don't set out to make bad films, but the bad films still get made. Anyway, enough of that. I don't think I'll do any more reporting on this project. I think it's done. It's died. If you like what you see and hear on the channel, please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, leave a like, leave a comment, and until next time, stay safe, stay well, and goodbye.